Not every ride is about speed. On some days, you just want to ride. It's not about getting there at all. It's about being there. Two motorcycles, two friends. There's no reason to hurry. Speed isn't calling the shots anymore. You're in control. That's how getting wiser works. Some call it evolution. And that explains all the grey hair on your head at least.
Well, I can't speak about the grease on my head. But I tell you what, I've done this road a million times on faster bikes as well. But these bikes is just a different kind of bliss, man. It's all about that soulful riding experience on solidly built machines.
I agree, man. I mean, this kind of riding is just so meditative, What I don't understand, however, is that all these years later, I have a BMW. And you've turned up on this, what's this mass-produced Japanese, Honda?
Listen. It's not just any Honda. This is the CB300R. It is stylish, it's sporty, and importantly, it's premium.
Listen, you don't talk about premium. You know what's premium? That bike, the BMW. I mean, you ask anyone you like and they'll never believe it's anything less than a 600.
Sure, I agree this bike is smaller, but essentially it's just as well made as your BMW, and importantly, it's just as capable.
No, I think this is like the time when I had that CBZ. And what is that noisy little Bajaj you showed up on?
The Pulsar, man. And if you remember correctly, that bike spanked your bike every single time, and I can do it once again on this bike.
No, I think you don't realize you weigh at least 3 times as much now.
So do you. See, this bike is light, okay? So come on, let's race.
Dude, we're not 18 anymore.
Come on, man, it's okay.
Okay, listen, but I don't want to break any bones, especially not my own. And thus began the race. I, on the BMW, underplayed the 4 PS advantage, but it wasn't soon after we'd set off that I realized how important a quick revving motor and lightweight really is. PD on the 147 kg CB300R with its 30.4 PS motor was darting towards all kinds of corners, chucking it in playfully, while I on the 158 kg BMW was having fun but struggling to keep up. And I don't think it was to do with him being the faster rider. The truth is, numbers rarely ever lie, and the CB300R is the quicker motorcycle to both 60 and 100 kmph. My hopes, thus, were pegged purely on the G310R's stronger braking, which is marginally better, although in terms of feel, it's the CB that is more progressive and without the dramatic dive you see on the BMW. However, no matter how hard I tried on the G310R, I couldn't quite outdo the CB300, and that meant only one of us was grinning at the end of the race.
See, I told you my little Honda would beat your BMW.
Oh please, I had you in my sights all the time. Honestly, the difference in performance isn't all that big. And then there's a sweet handling of my BMW. I mean, I could have read a book while chasing you down.
What are you talking about? The tighter rake and shorter wheelbase means my CB is extremely nimble through the corners. And let's not forget, it weighs just 147 kilos. That's a little heavier than you.
Very funny. For all your tighter rake and shorter wheelbase gyan, I could see how nervous your Honda was through the tight and bumpy corners. My BMW, on the other hand, was just so stable and planted.
Okay, it was a little bit of extra work, especially from the corner to corner transitions. But in reality, it handles just fine. At the end of the day, my bike beat your bike in the race.
Did someone say race?
To me?
Yep, it's me. You guys look like you're in racing shape, just like your motorcycles. If you're going to go fast in India on a reasonable budget, the only motorcycle you should be getting is a KTM 390 Duke. Because as we know, right from the very beginning, it's always had an IMU. That's an intense madness unit. It also has 10 bhp more than both the 300 and the 310R at the very minimum, a very sharp frame. We know this motorcycle is quite reliable. It's also extremely well priced, although it is a little bit more than the other two. How can you say no? I see that the old gentleman racers have left.
And so we crawled into the city in desperate need of a chai to calm down the roads that were once our racetrack. Thought we were invincible back then. It soon became apparent that the G310R was in fact better suited to the urban real world. All that talk meant it needed fewer gear shifts to outpace city traffic, which was backed by its strong mid-range performance. To add to that, the largely comfortable riding geometry and the leverage from the wide handlebar made it seem confident and at ease with the urban chaos. Clearly, there was more to it than just that exotic badge. Speaking of exotic badges, the CB300R doesn't have one, but if the way PD was snaking through traffic was anything to go by, it sure doesn't need one either. Alright, so its suspension is inherently firm, which means you do feel every single undulation, even if not jarringly so, but you would forgive it that for being so much fun. On balance, its riding stance is better in some aspects than the BMW, but what strikes you is that unlike any other Honda in a similar league of motorcycles, it wakes you up. It still is sweet and fairly refined, and the gearbox is delightfully smooth, but the CB is simply brimming with excitement all the time. They say you meet the nicest people on a Honda? Yeah, but probably not the ones on a CB300R for sure.
Man, the city has changed so much. Remember these roads back in the day? They used to be so empty. Now, on a bike, you just feel so vulnerable, no?
Yeah, that's true, man. And that's exactly what makes the Honda such a great city bike. Its small size and nimble handling means it filters through traffic without any problem. And as I mentioned before, that lightweight makes it so much easier to maneuver around a parking lot as well.
Yeah, but as if that's the only way to judge a great city bike, no? I mean, have you seen the size of these potholes on the roads? The BMW is just so plush through all of them. I did see you bounce around on your Honda, by the way. By the way, tell me something. Have you set up your suspension to the stiffest setting on the Honda right now?
Well, it's actually on the softest.
What? That is the softest? Are you kidding me? Honestly, I have to hand it to BMW because they really know how to tune suspension. In fact, even the seat on my BMW is just so plush and it absorbs everything so well.
Okay, fine. I will concede those points to the BMW. But I had ridden that G310R before, and there's one aspect where it's completely unlike a BMW, and I can prove that using that.
What, are you going to feed it chai?
No, I'm going to check if your bike will feed your pants some chai.
Okay.
Now let me show that to you on the Honda. Told you so.
Okay, point proven. But now also tell me, who the hell goes touring with a chai cup on their fuel tank? Yeah?
That's not the point. It's basically that lack of refinement in the BMW that will make it such a buzzkill at highway speeds.
Kuch bhi. I've been touring on the BMW so many times, and as long as you keep it under 100, it's absolutely fine.
Under 100 on the highway.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, no? And listen, anyway, before you say a word more, this time I'm going to prove it to you. So let's go touring.
Sure. Pehle chai pee le.
I wasn't making that up. Sticking to legal speeds on the BMW, I found very little to complain about. Okay, so that almost agricultural noise from the motor did leave my ears a bit sore by the end of each ride, but it feels like a big, substantial motorcycle, and I'm afraid that badge can get a bit overpowering at times. Sure, its lack of refinement is quite unlike all the other BMWs I've ridden before, but as long as you aren't in a particular hurry to get somewhere and have legs that don't mind being confined to a knees-up riding stance, you'll be fine. Life on the CB300R is pretty much the opposite. There's very little motorcycle you get to see from the rider's perch, and you will invariably find yourself riding much faster than you'd have intended to. The mildly aggressive riding stance goes with its character, although it's just not the best motorcycle of the two if you want to consider having a pillion on board. Also, while there isn't any wind protection on the CB, Even if Honda does choose to give it a large and heavy quarter fairing, there still is no way it's getting as heavy as the G310R. Now how exciting is that? Well, for PD at least.
Man, I think you have made the right choice. After all these years, you've gotten terribly slow, but your bike, the CB300, gave me a tough time.
Please, it wasn't just my bike. In fact, your bike gave you a tough time because apart from those vibes, have you asked your knees?
No, that's just age catching up, yeah. You see the BMW badge on that bike, that makes everything alright.
Including that 60,000 rupee price difference between the two bikes.
Yes, it's worth the extra cash because just look at the sheer presence of this motorcycle. And when I walk into a room and tell people I have a BMW, it makes their jaws drop to the floor.
I'm sure your jaw dropped to the floor when you first saw the service of this bike.
It is a bit expensive.
I mean, look at the Honda. Even the larger CKDs are so affordable to maintain and spares are damn cheap as well.
Are you saying for that reason alone, the CB300R is the better bike than the G310R?
See, let me put it this way. If you want a BMW, fine. This is the easiest way to get on that bandwagon. But would you recommend the G310R to someone who wants a mature, premium, do-it-all motorcycle?
Yeah, not exactly.
Listen, I'll help you. You know the answer, I know the answer. Everybody watching knows the answer. It's no.
So what you're saying is the CB300R is the thinking man's motorcycle.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, all that thinking you do, that's the reason you have no hair left on your head anymore. Just kidding.